Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And interesting week in sports. We've got name changes in the NFL and the CFL. We got baseball back. We've got the NFL canceling their preseason altogether. We have exhibitions in the NBA right before they get back to play. And we've got about a week away from the start of the NHL playoffs, and all very interesting topics to talk about. But for sports bettors, the number one sports betting market in the world is the NFL. And I'm continuing to go through all the divisions in the NFL. And today we're doing the AFC South, which I think is a very interesting division. Teams are more closely matched than you would think. And I'm not sure I agree with the current odds right now, so we'll talk about that. Also, we're doing Aussie Rules football, and we're in week 8 of a shortened season, and there's several games to talk about. There was a NASCAR race last night, and Denny Hamlin won, and there's no race this Sunday, so we're not going to have a NASCAR pick this week. But let's talk about last week and do what we always do and start by updating my bankroll. And as you can see, I had a starting bankroll of $479. We had 2 picks in Aussie Rules, both on the money line. Brisbane to win straight up, and that was a winner for us, plus 16. And the Melbourne Demons, who were plus 110 on the money line, and that would be plus 17 to the bankroll. And then we had half a unit each on Logano and Truex in the race last week, and Truex was right there. Logano has not fared well lately in his last 4 or 5 races. He's been very competitive early, leading laps, and he can't seem to bring his car in. I don't know if people are racing him rougher or harder, as they say, race you hard, trade paint, that kind of thing. Not really sure what's going on there, but he has had disappointing finishes, whereas teammates have been, running up front regularly. So that's a profit of $17 to the bankroll. So if you do the math, we're up to $496. And dividing by 30, as we always do, to be selective sports bettors going forward this week, we're going to make our bet size $17 per wager, so per unit. So that's where we're at, and we've covered the NFC West and the AFC West, and now we're moving on to the South, and we're going to talk about the AFC South today, and that's, of course, the Indianapolis Colts, going from north to south, Tennessee Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who like to play in London from time to time, and the Houston Texans, who beat the Bills in the playoffs last year. So the Tennessee Titans made it all the way to the AFC Championship last year, and they are probably the surprise team of the league last year. But first, let's talk about the Colts. And they're an interesting team. Of course, last year, Andrew Luck retired suddenly, and they had Jacoby Brissett, who was very adequate as a quarterback. So Indianapolis Colts, to win the division, are currently the favorite to win the division at plus 121. And that basically blows my mind. I don't believe that they're the favorites in this division. To win the AFC, 11-1, between 11 and 12-1, and to win the Super Bowl, 25-1. You can't tell me that they're a better favorite to win the Super Bowl than the Bills or the Packers, which are 28-1. I just don't see it. I really don't. And let's take a look here. Obviously, the big change for this team is Philip Rivers signed with the Colts. And as someone who's watched Philip Rivers over his whole career, but especially his last couple of years in San Diego, he seems to be in a decline to me. He still throws a lot of picks. He is a good time manager. If you have he can run a 2-minute drill as good as anybody in the league. But he has no mobility, and he has a tendency to throw a lot of balls up for grabs. Now, will Frank Reich fix that? I don't know. But with Brissett backing him up, they have an adequate 1-2 punch, and if Phillip gets injured, this team should not fall off much at all. And then they drafted Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin, and he's taking over running back 1, which is another head scratcher for me. A good running back, no doubt. He's an NFL quality caliber running back. But they have 2 very good backs in Marlon Mack and Nakeem Hines. And that 3-headed monster should do some damage. But that's a huge expectation on that rookie. I can't make them the favorite just based on that, or Phillip Rivers. I mean, it doesn't translate into being prohibitive favorite to win the division. And then you have no improvement at wide receiver or tight end in the offseason to date. T.Y. Hilton, Pittman, Campbell, and then Jack Doyle at tight end. And that's pretty much your receiving core. I think they have a couple of backup tight ends and 1 backup receiver. Not a lot of depth. T.Y. Hilton is an all-pro quality wide receiver. Jack Doyle is a quality tight end. It's not a bad receiving core, but it isn't going to make Phillip Rivers' job any easier. No depth at O-line, 1 backup. So you've got your 5 starters, and you've got 1 backup currently on the roster at offensive line. I know you can sign guys off the street if somebody gets hurt, but that doesn't help you if they get hurt in the first quarter of a game. And then, of course, for any team that's the favorite to win a division, who's going to kick? Is Vinatieri going to try to make a comeback at 47 years old? I don't think so. He really struggled last year, and they said he was injured, but I think they were just being polite to him because he's kicked for 23 damn years. You might get lucky, lightning in a bottle, and get a guy off the street that has a great year. Always a possibility with kickers. Kickers are very streaky, but that is an unknown quantity right now. The defense is deep and well-rounded, which means it's staffed appropriately. You've got backups in the front. You've got backups at the linebacker, backups in the secondary. This is a team that, when I say well-rounded, it's a team that doesn't really give up a big play, but at the same time, it doesn't really have, a whole lot of takeaways. This team last year was kind of even in the giveaway takeaway department. The one thing that I think is appreciated here, which I thought would not be appreciated, is Frank Reich as a head coach will get the most out of his team. What he's done in his 2 years in Indianapolis is remarkable. And I think he's a fantastic coach. And it'll be interesting to see how he works with Phillip Rivers. But he will get the most out of what this team has to offer. And obviously, if you look at the roster as constructed, it's going to be a run-first team, and it's going to struggle from behind, just like the San Diego Chargers with Phillip Rivers would always struggle from behind. He would have some amazing drive down the field in the last minute 48, and then they'd get to the red zone, and then something would happen. They'd get a pick or they'd miss a field goal. How many times have the Chargers missed field goals in important spots? So that's what I predict for this team, is a team that's going to struggle if they get behind. And I don't know. I mean, I can't see them as the favorites to win this division. It blows my mind. I just don't understand it. All right, let's move on to the Tennessee Titans, last year's Cinderella, so to speak. To win division, plus 150. I think that's pretty appropriate. To win the AFC, 13-1, probably about right. And to win the Super Bowl, 27-64 or about 28-1. Yeah, but they got to get through the Chiefs and the Bills. So this offseason, of course, Ryan Tannehill got paid for emerging as the number one quarterback in Tennessee. And Derrick Henry also signed a 4-year deal for $50 million, which is a very, very team-friendly deal. Only half of that money is guaranteed. So he's making like 12 and a half a year, and Christian McCaffrey's making like 16. So obviously he was the leading rusher in the NFL last year and signed a very team-friendly deal. I don't know what that's all about. Zero depth at wide receiver. You've got 3 guys on the roster, Brown, Davis, and Humphreys. And you do have a variety of tight ends. But, obviously they're going to have to pick up some depth at wide receiver. The solid offensive line with all the tight ends, great for running, multiple tight end sets there. Defense is balanced and deep. I've said defense is balanced with the other team, but this defense was very impressive in the playoffs. It kind of ran out of gas when they hit Kansas City in the final game of the AFC playoffs, but it was very impressive against New England. This defense could use an extra edge rusher on the front line. On the defense, getting a little extra pressure on the quarterback. They have insane linebacking on this team, and Vrabel being the head coach is, probably will add something to their ability to produce good linebackers. Expect close games. This team is obviously a run-first team. Tannehill does have some legs. He was an excellent passer last year. Will be interesting to see if he can keep that up. And Vrabel likes ball control. If you remember what he did against New England in the playoffs last year, where he ran that clock and took all those offsides and false starts, and when you got a running back like Derrick Henry, you can just run downhill and eat up clock, and that's the game he's going to want to play. So it'd be very interesting to see if teams can adopt to what the Tennessee Titans eventually rolled with last year. And, everybody, teams got to stay healthy. It doesn't matter who you are. So that they lose Tannehill or Derrick Henry, and they are sunk. All right, on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they are the longest of the long shots to win a championship. But you can see to win the division 30-1, to win the AFC 81-1, and to win the Super Bowl 226-1. Now, to win the division 30-1, that's pretty high. I'm surprised it's that high. I would have expected it to be 20-1 or 25-1. But they're basically saying that Jacksonville has zero shot of doing anything this year. I don't think they're that bad. They were horrible last year. There was, you had a head coach, an assistant coach, an assistant GM, a president of football. Organizationally, they were a mess. Tom Coughlin's gone, retired. Doug Marrone is the coach now. We'll see what he does with free reign on this team. And let's see what we got here. Gardner Minshew is the quarterback one by default in Duval County. Obviously, Nick Foles is gone. So Minshew is what they got. And a lot of people think he's just an average quarterback. I feel like, he got thrown into the mix with Foles going down in week 1 and did pretty well. And with a year to prepare, he might surprise some people. Fournette, the feature back, and I put in parentheses, had success split time. Now back when in 2017, when they were in the playoffs, Fournette split with TJ Yeldon. He split time, and they had a lot of success. If he's going to be a 3-down back for them, he's going to have to really be in tip-top shape to to survive that wear and tear, and they're going to need somebody else to give him a breather. So I don't know what they have planned, or if they've got somebody coming into the fold. There's not a lot of info out there on who that might be, or I haven't really researched it. Deep experienced wide receiver core, and here's the thing. This team does have good wide receivers, and I feel like last year that this team was not committed to throwing because either they didn't have the confidence in Minshew, or they were just running by design. And that's something that, I feel like is very undervalued in the market right now, is the quality of the passing game that this team could have if they make that a priority. No depth at tight end. Offensive line expected to protect the quarterback. Of course, all offensive lines are expected to protect the quarterback. What I mean by this is the five, the center, the two guards, the two tackles are going to have to do the job. And if I'm playing against them and they don't have, a good blocking tight end on the squad, which they don't right now, Minshew's in for a world of hurt if they can't protect him with the five. And if I'm playing against them, I'm loading up lines on odd sides. I'm trying to bring him into his blind spot and take out that quarterback. So that's something that's going to have to be addressed. Josh Lambo, the best kicker in the division, in my opinion. Obviously, two of these teams, you don't really know who the kicker's going to be, but that's an advantage. If they can keep games close, that could give them some wins. The defense needs to return to Jacksonville. The defense is pretty stacked on paper, but they need pressure on the quarterback, and the one thing that they did last year was give up the big play, and they have to avoid giving up the big play. And so if they can get a pass rush again and avoid giving up the big play in the secondary, this team will be competitive in the division. I actually don't think 30-1 is a bad, I think those are good. That's value in the marketplace. Obviously, Jacksonville is not expected to do very well, but at 30-1, throwing $10, $20 on them to win the division, it's not really a bad wager. And Marrone must be less predictable. We talked about how they tried to run, and everything they tried to do was, people knew it was coming a mile away. He's got to change things up. I don't know if he has a new OC this year or not, but definitely has to be less predictable. Definitely have to try some new things or bring in some new folks that they don't have a lot of tape on, and they could do some damage. This team is really not that far away from being a competitive team. Obviously, you have to expect a lot from the quarterback and the wide receivers, and you need a defense that's going to generate turnovers. But if you can do those things, then all of a sudden, this is a division where 9-7 could win. I feel like it's very competitive. We'll see how they do out of their division. And then finally, we have the Houston Texans. And I really think, if you asked me this morning who you think will win the division, and I would have said Houston, and plus 375 to win the division. That's real good odds for this team. To win the AFC, 20-1. And to win the Super Bowl, 38-1. Again, you've got Kansas City in the AFC, so it's not one of those situations. With an NFC team, you can bet them to win the Super Bowl, and if they make the Super Bowl, you can just hedge your bet and collect your profit. Obviously, Deshaun Watson is the best quarterback in the division. I don't think there should be any argument with that. He's got the best legs. I think he's got the best arm. He is a playmaker. He can take a broken play and turn it into a touchdown. Of course, they traded for David Johnson from Arizona. They sent DeAndre Hopkins out there. Feature back for them now, and the question mark is healthy because he has not been able to stay healthy for the last 3-4 years. And they traded for, he must have passed the physical, but they traded for damaged goods, in my opinion. And The one way you can look at it is they gave up a player who would impact the game more, I think, in DeAndre Hopkins than David Johnson. But on the other hand, if you look at what I wrote next, wide receiver and tight end stacked. You see what they have at wide receiver and tight end right now. Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, Darren Fells. Plenty of weapons that they could afford to give up DeAndre, who was unhappy in Houston. So you can see why that trade was made. Balanced offensive line returning. And then, it's this team that looks very good on paper. It has depth. It has balance. Defense generates takeaways. The defense, when it's healthy, okay, Clowney is gone. He went to Seattle. But they still have a very solid front seven. J.J. Watt's healthy again. And then it comes down to one thing. It always comes down to one thing with Houston. Bill O'Brien. And he is the coach and the GM now. But he has a bad reputation in big games. They backed into that win against the Bills in the playoffs last year after being down. And then they came out against the Chiefs and really socked it to them for a half and then just got destroyed in the second half. And I don't know if he's the guy to get him over the top. I really don't. Obviously he has a good formula / regimen for the regular season, rest, practice, game prep. But when it comes to the playoffs, for some reason, I don't know why this team doesn't have that next level. It seems like maybe they might need to bring in some players that have won championships before and change the culture. I don't know. But to win the division at plus 375, a very good bet, I think. I feel like this is a playoff team. Again, it's staying healthy. Fairbairn is the kicker. He's decent. I can't, like most of these teams, AFC and Super Bowl, if you got to get through Kansas City, there's only one or two teams I feel like that could get through Kansas City. The Bills are one of them. Maybe the Steelers if they're fully healthy. We'll see. Somebody will show. Maybe the Titans. I don't know. But I don't feel like Houston matches up with Kansas City very well. So I won't pick them to win the AFC or the Super Bowl. But that's the AFC South. I really think it's up for grabs. I don't think Indy is the favorite. The fact that they are at the Sportsbook means that somebody's obviously put money on them to bring those odds down. I really think Houston would be the play there, or maybe throw in some pizza money on the Jaguars just because you never know. Winning the division, you can back into winning the division. Things can happen. Players can get injured. So that's it for the AFC preview this week, and let's go right on to Aussie Rules. We're in Week 8. We've had really good luck this year with Aussie Rules. I'm going to go over these games really quickly and give you my picks. We got Carlton Blues at North Melbourne Kangaroos. Kangaroos plus 12.5. Carlton's a much improved team this year. North Melbourne is decimated with injuries. I feel like this is going to be a close game, so I would not want to lay the 12.5 here, but I do like Carlton to win the game outright. Hawthorn Hawks at Sydney Swans. Hawthorn has played horrible for 4 or 5 games in a row. Sydney, both of these teams also have injury issues. Two of Sydney's best players are out. But this game is in Sydney. They are in much better shape than Hawthorn injury-wise, and they have better stats all around, possession, kicking, forward possession time. I like Sydney here. St. Kilda Saints at Port Adelaide Power. I still think Port Adelaide's the best team in the league. St. Kilda is probably a top 4 team. This should be a good game. I don't like laying 16.5 points here. I feel like St. Kilda is a good possession team, and they can make it close. So if I had to lay aside or to pick a side here, I would take the points in St. Kilda, but I think I'm probably going to pass on that game. But I'd be very interested to watch it. Essendon Bombers at Adelaide Crows. Adelaide continues to have a solid lock on the basement in the Aussie Rules football league. Essendon is one of those 500-ish teams. I think they win here, but again, I don't like the spread, 10.5, which means they have to win by 2 goals. Not sure I like that, but I like Essendon to win outright. And then we got 3 more games. Collingwood at West Coast Eagles, the Magpies at West Coast, minus 5.5. The Eagles are favorite. Collingwood has had a lot of injuries in the last 2 weeks, and I feel like they're the better team here. I would take the points if I was going to take Collingwood. Not sure I like them enough. At like 9.5, I would be all over Collingwood. At 5.5, I don't know. Brisbane at the Melbourne Demons. I won with the Demons. I won with both of these teams last week. The Demons are playing well, so I think Brisbane is the better team on paper. I don't feel like I could take them minus 9.5. Melbourne is playing well, but the quality of the competition is way better than last week. This game really doesn't excite me at all is from a betting perspective, but another game that I'll probably watch. And then Geelong, the Cats at the Fremantle Dockers, and Geelong minus 11.5. Fremantle has an injury list a mile long. They started out not too bad, like 2-2, and they're just in another nosedive this year. Geelong is getting back to being healthy, and when they're healthy, they're like a top 6 team in my opinion. So I like Geelong here to get the job done, even at 11.5. So that's how I feel about the games this week in Aussie Rules. So if you want to place a bet, if you want to tail me, I'll show you what I'm picking this week. And we just talked about Geelong. I'm taking the Cats minus 11.5 at minus 111. And then I'm going to take the Sydney Swans on the money line at plus 120. I think they're 5.5 underdogs. So that's 1 goal different, less than 1 goal different. So I'm picking the Swans just to win straight up at plus 120. So we'll see if I can keep my streak alive in Aussie Rules and maybe add a little to the bankroll. And we'll be back next week with another preview and maybe talk a little playoff hockey and whatever other topics interest me. So thank you for watching. And let's play the outro music for you. And I appreciate you coming by. See you next time. Let's get some winners, folks. Take care, everybody.